Hey everyone, I'm Panda. Quick question. When did you last ride a motorbike? If you're in Singapore, probably a while ago. But if you're in Vietnam, Indonesia, or Thailand, a motorbike isn't just transport. It's your legs. It's how your entire family gets around. Southeast Asia has over 200 million motorbikes on the road. 200 million. All running on petrol. Then oil prices shot up 60% in 2 months. That moment cracked open a door, and the ones who walked through it, Chinese electric motorbikes. Hey Panda here. Today I want to talk about something that isn't getting nearly enough attention in mainstream financial media. How Chinese electric motorbikes are cornering Japan's most dominant brands in one of the world's most important two-wheeler markets. Let me give you the backdrop first. Southeast Asia's motorbike market has been Japanese territory since the 1990s. Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, these three brands have held over 80% market share across the region for decades. At Honda's peak in Vietnam, one company alone owned 70% of the entire market. That structure held for nearly 30 years. Almost no one could touch it. Why? Two reasons. First, Japanese brands got there early. Honda started laying groundwork in the 1960s, a full 4 decades before Chinese manufacturers. First mover trust is incredibly hard to displace. Second, the quality reputation was genuinely earned. Buying a Honda in Southeast Asia is like buying a trusted household brand here in Singapore. It's embedded in consumer behavior. But Japanese brands had one critical blind spot. They were terrifyingly slow to go electric. Honda didn't launch its first proper strategic electric motorbike in Southeast Asia until 2025. Yamaha was even slower, and it's not that they didn't see it coming, it's that they couldn't bring themselves to do it. Selling tens of millions of petrol bikes a year generates enormous profit and cash flow. Who willingly cannibalizes that? It's the classic innovator's dilemma. Chinese manufacturers had no such baggage. Over the past decade, China's electric two-wheeler industry went through a brutal period of internal competition. By 2023, annual EV two-wheeler sales in China exceeded 50 million units, with thousands of registered manufacturers fighting for every margin point across every price range. When you've squeezed domestic growth to its limits, you look outward, target Southeast Asia. Let me give you the numbers that show how fast this is moving. In Q1 2026, Honda's Vietnam market share recorded its sharpest decline in 15 years. Yamaha dropped over 10% too. In the same period, Yadea's Vietnam sales surged by 30%. For the full year 2025, Yamaha Vietnam fell 17.3%. Yadea grew 61.6%. That's not noise, that's a structural shift. So why Chinese brands specifically? India has motorbike manufacturers. Japan is trying to catch up. Why are the Chinese the ones capturing this opportunity? Panda's answer: supply chain. China is the world's largest lithium battery producer, accounting for over 70% of global capacity. The three most critical components of an electric motorbike, battery, motor, controller, China produces entirely domestically at the lowest cost on Earth. The result, a Chinese electric motorbike in Southeast Asia retails for roughly $2,000. An equivalent Japanese electric motorbike in Southeast Asia retails for roughly $800 to $2,000. An equivalent Japanese electric model, at least 30% to 50% more, expensive in a region where GDP per capita runs between $3,000 and $12,000 on a motorbike, is a daily necessity, not a luxury item. That price gap is decisive. But here's what Panda thinks is genuinely important. This time, the Chinese playbook is completely different from 20 years ago. In the early 2000s, Chongqing-based motorbike manufacturers flooded Vietnam with cheap petrol bikes and briefly captured 80% of the market. Then quality problems caught up with them, Japanese brands hit back hard, and Chinese motorbikes spent years with a damaged reputation across Southeast Asia. That history clearly left a mark, because this time, the approach is unrecognizable. Yadea has a factory in Vietnam with 200,000 units of annual capacity, expanding to 500,000. They've committed $150 million to a new Indonesia facility targeting 3 million units per year. Yamaha has production bases in both Vietnam and Indonesia. Neo Technologies, known as 9bot internationally, now derives 45% of its revenue from overseas, competing on smart features, app-based remote control, GPS tracking, over-the-air software updates, none of which Japanese brands currently offer. This isn't dumping, this is building factories, establishing distribution, developing brands, and competing on technology. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Electric is great, but what about charging infrastructure? Isn't electricity unreliable in parts of Southeast Asia? Fair question. But that concern is about 5 years out of date. Urban electricity coverage in Indonesia and Thailand is now above 95%. And critically, electric motorbikes have minimal charging needs. Battery capacity is typically just 1 to 3 kilowatt hours. A standard home socket is enough. Plug in when you get home, full battery by morning. It's essentially the same as charging your phone. Yadea has also been rolling out battery swap networks. In Vietnam, riders pull up, swap a depleted battery for a fully charged one in under a minute, and go. That model is perfect for ride-hailing drivers and delivery riders who can't afford to sit and wait for a charge. And here's the factor. A lot of people overlook Policy is pushing this, independent of oil prices. Vietnam's government has already mandated that from July 2026, petrol motorbikes will be banned inside Hanoi's first ring road, with a full ban on personal petrol vehicles inside the third ring road by 2030. Ho Chi Minh City is targeting replacement of 400,000 petrol motorbikes before 2028. Thailand has electric vehicle subsidies. Indonesia offers tax breaks on electric motorbikes. These are regulatory commitments. They don't reverse when oil prices come back down. The oil spike just accelerated the timeline by 2 or 3 years. Let Panda put the market size in perspective. 200 million petrol motorbikes in Southeast Asia, average replacement cycle of 15 years, average price of $1,000, $500. The replacement market alone is roughly billion yuan.
In current EV penetration, Vietnam, the highest in the region, is at just 9.3%. Indonesia, 1.7%. Thailand, 1%. Over 90% of the market is still untouched. I want to close with one observation. 20 years ago, Chinese motorbikes entered Southeast Asia on price and lost on quality. The reputation damage lasted years. This time, they're coming back with something Japan doesn't have: a vertically integrated lithium battery supply chain built over a decade of relentless domestic competition. Japanese manufacturers are estimated to be 5 to 8 years away from matching Chinese battery costs. That's not a gap you close quickly. The electric motorbike space doesn't have the headlines of the EV car industry. No trillion-dollar valuations, no Elon Musk, but in Southeast Asia, a motorbike is how a family gets to work, gets kids to school, gets groceries home. Changing that is actually kind of a big deal. All right, that's a wrap from Panda. How far do you think Chinese electric motorbikes can go in Southeast Asia? Drop your take in the comments, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.